couldn't turn on a TV or turn on a radio
Sure.
station without hearing that. And yeah, it had a huge marketing push, the Batman Forever campaign. Yeah, it was everywhere. It really was.
Yeah. All right. So it didn't. Yeah. All right. I was hoping that if I just went live, it would take over the WhatsApp, but it didn't. But anyway, I'll figure that all out next time. I'll just delete the one that was scheduled, and I'll start this one now. Yeah, I miss the old tie-in song, like Carrie Underwood, "How Do I Live," and for Con
Oh
Air.
yeah, yeah, Trisha Yearwood, yeah.
Oh yeah, Trisha Yearwood. I think it's a cover, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, it was. I forget the timeline. Leanne Rimes sang it first.
It's been done a few times, that one. But yeah, that
And
was a movie
yeah,
tie-in as well. Yeah.
because I remember watching a little video clip about it, and they felt that her version didn't have enough, in quotes, emotional lift. So they uh, had Trisha Yearwood record it, and it was a huge hit, yeah, all over the world.
I also
And
suppose because Leanne Rimes, what was sort of the hot topic at the time because of the "Can't Fight the Moonlight" that was on the horizon with Coyote Ugly a couple of years down the
yeah,
line.
yeah, she was yeah, a really big name back then, and yeah, well, I guess it all worked out well in the end. Diane Warren wrote that song, and she's had a long career writing for songs. Uh, yeah, pretty much, uh, probably at least 40 or 50 movies in the last, 30 years. She's probably had a song. She wrote the song from Armageddon. She wrote a lot of songs for Cher and Michael Bolton and
Oh yeah, and also
other
what I think
performers like that.
what Michael Bolton's version of "I Found Someone." I think they used that for Pearl Harbor. I might be mistaken. But they
Yeah,
used
they
his
could have.
cover.
Yeah.
They used his version of that for the Pearl Harbor tie-in with Rachel McAdams, Josh Hartnett, and Ben Affleck. I want to say.
Oh, are you talking about the Notebook, or is that Rachel
Pearl Harbor.
McAdams? Yeah, that was Kate
Oh, okay.
Beckinsale, I think.
Who
Yeah,
was it? Oh, Kate Beckinsale or something.
yeah, yeah. Josh Hartnett and yeah, Affleck. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I do remember that film. It was
2001. Um, every single time I think about Michael Bay, I believe, directed that.
yeah, it was another one that was you
Yeah, no, it was
know,
Kate Beckinsale. Yeah, I was just double checking that. Yeah.
yeah,
Uh,
well, it was another film back in that era, the like the flow-on effect of Titanic. So there were a
oh,
lot of
yeah, My Heart
copycats.
Will Go On. Yeah.
Yeah, and you try and conjure a love story against a historical event. Some movies did it better than others. But yeah,
As we all do, right?
Yeah, Pearl Harbor. I didn't mind it. And it when I think of Pearl Harbor, I always one of my colleagues at work, because I'm a dinosaur. I still collect DVDs and Blu-rays, and one of my colleagues a few years ago was cleaning out a garage and gave me a box of DVDs, and in it was like this deluxe four-disc set edition of Pearl Harbor, and it was, pretty much unopened. It had been purchased, but had never been watched, and it just took me back to the days when even shit movies got the royal treatment.
Got the treatment. Yeah.
Yeah, like a four-disc set. The fucking Lord of the Rings got a four-disc set.
Yeah, I think
But
we
it
need to
was
have a
just on
little
that
bit more
level,
of that. Eh? Yeah.
yeah, it was just an exhaustive sort of look at the film, and the film has pretty much been forgotten from history. And yeah, it just took me back in the day, like even, shit movies just had hours and hours of special features, like that sort of period between 2000 to around 2005, where like they kind of knew they couldn't phone it in. If they wanted your money, they had to sort of cough it up. Whereas these days they barely get anything. Only the little boutique production companies like Arrow or 88 Films are are really rolling up their sleeves and ripping in on the special features front. So, but yeah, I was blown away by that, and there was yeah, I had a ball just sort of sifting through that box and finding all these little treasures.
I actually really missed the times when, because like another one that stands out to me was Creed with Scream 3.
Yeah,
With What If, like that was another massive one, and I always love the song tie-ins that you would get where one of the actual stars, like in the top 3 or 4 billing, would actually be in the music video. Because I saw some footage of Jim Carrey as Edward Nigma in U2's Hold Me, Kiss Me, Thrill Me, Kill Me in his apartment, and I don't ever remember seeing that in the movie. So he probably didn't do it for the video clip. I doubt it because this is 90s Carrey, but it's interesting where a bit of B-roll ends up sometimes, isn't it? But I
oh
love
yeah,
it
very
because
much so.
yeah, like David Arquette rocked up in the What If clip.
Yeah. Another famous one was Schwarzenegger in the Guns N' Roses clip. He's stalking Axl Rose through the nightclub, and he's
Yeah, and
got
it's
his
like yeah, he's
Terminator
going
vision.
for the whole target acquired. He's going after the band members. Yeah, and they did the
Yeah,
similar thing with Ghostface for
yeah,
Creed What If. That was a really good one.
yeah. I do really love that clip from Creed, how he murders all the band. That's really cool.
And I think he kills Dewey at the end because he jumps off the fire escape. um, I think that's the way it ends. Yeah. What if? What if? What if I? That was I missed the song tie-ins. Maybe it was just something that they did a lot um, back around that time, but I think it's something that they definitely need to bring back.
Yeah, well, it's a different world now because people don't watch, TV anymore. If you wanted to see the film clip, you had to
So,
tune
like,
into
so
one of the music
to
channels.
have like a music video advertise your movie because they're essentially mini trailers, aren't they? Under the guise of a music video, along with the song. So for that to hit, people would have to have like their MTVs, their CMCs
Yeah.
playing all the time, their Music Max, I think was the other one.
Yeah, that was a good one. Yeah.
Back in the day, like you'd have to have that playing over and over and over and over and over again. Um, but no one does that anymore because they got fucking Spotify now.
Yeah, and YouTube and social media. It's like someone blowing up the other day about, you know, Hasbro needs to make another cartoon. Well, there's just one problem with that. Kids don't watch television anymore.
I
It's
know. Oh shit, man, that reminds me. You got to check out this fucking bad boy I picked up. I had 2 figures rocked up. Yeah, and I had someone else say that. I saw a good one saying Hasbro needs to do another CGI series. Like Beast Wars to make it cool again. Did you sleep through the Unicron trilogy? Because all three of those were CGI series. They
Yeah,
look like they're traditionally animated, but they're three. Like it's that same sort of mainframe style, just with a different artwork. Um,
yeah,
and case in point, they did go hardcore back into that with that. What was it Machinima or Netflix that Kingdom
yeah,
Cybertron trilogy? Like they even had the Barney purple T Rex back as a 3D model, and fucking no one watched it. Because why would
yeah,
they?
yeah. Like the viewership is so fractured now where we're never going back to how it used to be. But there's that sort of logic flaw, and your mind plays tricks on you if you there's this sort of illusion and lie we tell ourselves. If we just simply go back to doing what we used to do, then things will automatically go back to being the way they used to be. Well, no, you can't uninvent YouTube and streaming and social media. It's here to stay.
And that's the other thing. Like, it reminds me of that moment since we were talking about Armageddon. Do you remember one of those zombie? Yeah, hey, how you doing? I hope you're having a good one. It reminds me of one of those demands that they make in the movie Armageddon. Like, Max want you guys to bring back 8-bit tracks. I'm not sure if that's gonna work
Yeah, exactly.
because you
Yeah,
can't uninvent Spotify. You know what I mean? Like, it is what it is.
yeah.
Um, but
That's great.
I think a lot of it is that it's the classic. If you saw the toy on the toy aisle, you would want to watch the show, and if you saw the show, then you would want to buy the toys.
Yeah,
Um, that's not really how it's done anymore. Like, there's a reason why Hasbro are strictly only catering to middle-aged geography teachers.
Yeah, and it's funny, the Hasbro Pulse Live, they have a constant live streaming channel. All they do is just stream Generation 1. They
Yeah,
play it from beginning to end over and over and over again. Because it's not, this is backed up by no marketing research or salesmanship at all. This is just a sort of Miracle Man gut feeling test, but you can tell the health of something by how much it caters to, the hardcore old generation. So you look at Hasbro and Transformers, right? It's basically 90% G1 now. And okay, so this year we've got
yeah.
a Transformers Prime Cliff Jumper coming out. We'll throw you guys a bone. And there is not a fucking mention of anything new, no original characters, or
Could,
maybe this half-assed thing over
I
here.
found a good video on YouTube that actually talked about that. I'm alive or dead. Brains. Yeah, zombies eat brains, and she doesn't have any. I just realized playing Resident Evil 2, zombie has zombie in her name. Awesome stuff. Um, yeah, because I saw a good YouTube video that broke down what they were supposed to do for like 2025, and it was meant to be whatever year the Legacy Inferno was in, and it was supposed to be like at least 50% Beast Wars, and it ended up being like 87% G1.
Yeah. But you compare that to something like, Mattel. So I had a quick look through their newsletter. So their branding this year is Jurassic World Survivor, and it's pretty much
Is
all
th- is th-
new
is that the
creatures.
is
It's
that is
it's
that the game that still hasn't had a fucking update yet?
no, I just think it's, what they're calling their toy line. Well, they call them like on years and off years. This year a film isn't coming out, so it's an off year, but the
And
toy
there's no
line
cartoon series
continues.
either because Chaos Theory wrapped up.
Yeah, but
Um,
it's pretty much all new creatures and new designs and the legacy, from like the 90s Jurassic Park films, that's probably like 10-20% of their whole toy line for the year. So that's a healthy brand.
oh, that
Like that
reminds me.
that
Like,
speaks to me that they're, like the majority of their fan base is, post 2000 younger. Whereas you look at Hasbro, it's fucking all, middle-aged dudes,
yeah, no. Now that you mentioned Mattel in Jurassic World, there was another moment that got me just thinking about what you were saying. I saw something that was listed on the Gamesmen down here in Australia, and that was a reimagined Kenner Triceratops. And I'm
Yeah,
sitting there
okay.
going, well, the audience that toy caters to is anyone who picked up the Kenner one back in the fucking 90s, right? Like, that's not gonna hold much water. Like what kid would want that? Like, imagine coming off the back of the Hammond Triceratops just to pick up that. Like,
Yeah.
ugh.
But you look at their entire sort of line, like the waves, it's like overwhelmingly new creatures, new designs, new names, and it's only like 20% of it is that sort of stuff. So, and that's the complete mirror image of what Hasbro's doing. And I think, that sort of tells me Jurassic World's in a much healthier spot than Transformers is. If it was 80% Hammond Collection, Legacy Collection, JP 1993, let's all have a party. Like I'd be worried about Jurassic as a brand, right? But because it's all new, or most of it is new concepts and new designs, that tells me that they're tapping into a younger market that Hasbro isn't.
The I always knew that the toy line was thriving, right, when there was like whole like 2.5 years that were
Yeah,
tie-ins to like Camp Cretaceous and Chaos Theory, and I'd catch guys like Terradome that were talking about it, going, it needs to go back to being scary the way that it was back in the 90s, and this is a critique that just always annoys me all the time, and it's the Jurassic needs to be scary again like the original film, and then when you track these people's ages back to how old they were when they first saw it back in '93. Man, I'll never forget the day when I went in there when I was 7 years old. All right, now look, I don't think Jurassic Park '93 is a horror movie the way that a lot of these people say that it is. I
Yeah.
think what gets lost in translation is it has moments that are very intense for younger viewers, like the T-Rex breakout, the raptors in the kitchen, the Dilophosaurus. It has moments that are very intense for younger viewers. I don't think it's a horror movie the way these people think that it is.
Yeah, very much so. And a lot of that's down to Spielberg. He really knows how to push the envelope and not take it too far.
Yeah, he does a bit, doesn't he? Because like a lot of people think it's and it's funny because the one time the Jurassic World movies, like I'm almost thinking that this should be almost a just chatting session, because a lot of people talk about that moment when Zara is killed in Jurassic World when she's ripped up off the ground and dropped into the by the pteranodon and then dropped into the Mosasaurus tank. People said that was way too gratuitous. That was uncalled for. That was too violent for a character that wasn't actually evil. And like you sit back and then you wonder, okay, hang on, wait a minute. You wanted more deaths like Eddie Carr, and when you finally got one, it was too much, which really does sort of beg the question now. Like, okay, so that wasn't what you wanted. We scratched the itch that you claimed that you had, and it still wasn't enough.
Yeah, I think the difference with those two, though, I can't remember exactly. I haven't seen Jurassic World in a while.
Yeah.
I think the fact that they mentioned Carr's death on screen when Malcolm calls out Roland about it, whereas I don't think that other characters ever mentioned again. But I could be wrong. I haven't seen Jurassic World in a long
I
time.
don't believe she is. Like I'll tell you this for nothing. Like I don't think Claire Deering was all that cut up about it. And the other thing as well that gets lost in translation is how badass Roland Tembo is from The Lost World. Oh, he's trying to hunt down the male T Rex and no one wants to mess with him and all this good stuff. That moment that you talked about when Malcolm calls him out. When he says, "Oh, Rex just fed, so they won't stalk us for food." Just fed. I assume you're talking about Eddie. Show a little respect. His troubles are
Mm.
over. Predators don't hunt
Yeah.
when they're not hungry. But then there's that moment later in the film when he's sitting in the cage with the tranquilized T Rex, and Ludlow asks him, "What's the matter?" And then he says, "RJ, he didn't make it." One could only imagine the white hot fury you would get from Roland if you told him, well, his troubles are over."
Yeah.
Like, Roland isn't the badass that everyone makes him out to be. Like, he leaves the movie with his tail between his legs. um,
Yeah, well,
uh,
that's all the
I like this.
subtext. Yeah, and
No, it never scared me. It was more of a rush of adrenaline watching it, and I was born in '93. Well, I was born in '93 as well, and I remember hiding behind the couch when I was watching the T Rex breakout the first time I saw that. It is a very intense moment, but it's not the horror movie that everyone keeps saying that it is, and it really bugs the hell out of me that people keep saying that. Um, yeah, just give me a second, mate. I'm just going to go and hit the John real quick. Yeah,
yeah, no worries.
it really annoys me that keeps happening. Yeah. God, I definitely need to get out of doing that every single time, because I always rest my headset on the left arm of my chair. And every single time I fucking go to pick it back up, right, it goes right across my monitor arm, my microphone arm, and the first thing that pops in my head is Joe Montana when they're taking the calls in Airheads. And let's turn down your radio, okay, asshole?
Yeah, Ian the Shark.
Yeah, Ian the Shark. Listen up, guppies. What does Zombie J say? Even The Exorcist didn't scare me. I laughed the entire way through the movie. Actually, that's something that you bring up quite a lot, isn't it? Um, like for the time that that came out in, it's been parodied to death so many times with things like Scary Movie. Like you and I sat down and watched it a couple of Christmases ago, and that's all we did going through it. That's actually one of the ones that you point out the most.
Yeah, because I'd never seen it, and I'm not even sure it's not like a Top Gun or anything where I'd watched, bits and pieces of it here and there growing up,
Yeah,
and you sort of indirectly, inadvertently seen the whole film from beginning to end. But yeah, I'd only ever really seen snippets of The Exorcist. So, I think it was the COVID year. I finally sat down and gave it a go, and yeah, because yeah, pretty much every scene has been parodied and aped and copied and imitated so many times in so many films. It did sort of lose a lot of its sort of power and energy. It's still an incredible film, well made, brilliantly acted and shot.
yeah,
And I still really like it for those reasons. And I really enjoyed on the recommendation of Greg Hatcher from the Atomic Junk Shop, I watched the television adaptation from around 2016 or 17. I
yeah.
watched season one of that, and it's a really good show. And it's funny because I watched the pilot, and and if you ever watch the pilot, it's brilliant the way it does it. It's the oldest fucking trick in the book. It sort of leads you down the garden path, and all the clues are pointing to that. And in the final scene, it flips it completely, and you finally realize who it is that's really possessed, and the whole nightmare, the whole ordeal starts over again. I remember grinning, and I thought I have to stick with this show. Like you watch so many shows and you know all the cliches and you know where it's going, and it fucking fooled me with the oldest trick in the book.
I love things that do that, all right, because it's hard to do it. Like it's like what we were talking
Yeah.
about the other week. Like you get the sort of feeling that like they're never really safe. Like, have you ever watched a horror movie before? I like what Jay says here. It was more hilarious and scary movie. I'm so keen for their comeback. So am I. Actually, I enjoyed that trailer way more than what I probably should have. It's going to be interesting seeing that come back. I'm really excited to see Lachlan Monroe come back because he is an incredibly funny man. And I actually watched when I was on the treadmill tonight. I watched a guy thing from 2003 with Jason Lee, Julia Stiles, and Selma Blair. Is it? Was that the one that was in Hellboy?
Yeah,
Um,
these movies were a dime a dozen in that era.
I am so fucking when Lachlan Monroe rocked up. I hope well, we don't know who he's playing, but I hope he's playing Craig, because I love that moment in Scary Movie 1. He's like, God damn it, like punching his locker. What's going on, babe? My report card, dumbass.
Yeah.
We saw him in that sheriff thing in the trailer. Oh god, I really hope he gets a lot of screen time. Lachlan Monroe just cracks me up so much.
Yeah, I have a feeling they might be poking fun at the recent that reimagining of Twin Peaks from, oh, it was a while ago now, but
Yeah.
I saw him in that trailer. It reminded me, if you'll get around to it one day, but in that, like when Twin Peaks resumes 25 years later, Bobby's the sheriff, like the town fuck up dropkick. He did
Oh, you're
actually
talking
straighten
about Bobby
himself out.
Briggs.
Yeah, I think that, I kind of put me in a mind when I
Yeah,
saw the
I
Scary
remember him.
Movie trailer where the dropkick loser actually straightened himself out, because he's quite a sort of serious character, Bobby. in Twin Peaks, whereas he was just a total idiot, back in the 90s when the show was at its peak.
Yeah.
And decades go past, and he actually sort of straightened himself out and
So
became
in
a
a
respectable
roundabout
citizen.
way, like he did have his redemption. It was like slowly it was getting there. So yeah,
Yeah,
maybe you're right about that. Um, it's also interesting that it's like totally forsaken just about everything else. It's literally just called Scary Movie. But knowing these guys, maybe it's just a jab at like why is Scream 5 just called Scream? There was that weird sort of trend for a while of just calling these belated sequels just the original title. I don't know. I guess the only real reason I can think behind that is to attract new viewers. Because
yeah,
like if you
that's
see
the
Scream 5 with like Jenna Ortega and all that on it, it might look a bit, oh wait a minute, is there four movies before this with Jenna? Like you sort of fall into that rabbit hole, so it's easier to just call it Scream. I love how this one is just called Scary Movie. I think
yeah,
our
that was
inner
the
child was more screaming watching it. Yeah, I mean, who could forget Bobby's moment? Next time I see Bobby, I'll tell him I love him. I remember when the first Dominion trailer came out, and the gift that I used for my reaction for that was Bobby's ejaculation scene in Scary Movie. Good stuff. But I'm really looking forward to Scary Movie. I reckon that's going to be brilliant. Um, because like even like back then, see, because the thing that first one did, and I still think that first one is in a league of its own, and like I hate saying that because I think down the line, a, a lot of franchises did have sequels that were better in a lot of ways. When I think about that first Scary Movie, I think because its subject matter was just like, I mean, it's the first Scream. It's, I know what you did last summer. It's Usual Suspects. It's all this high caliber stuff at the time that people were heralding as cinema. And it's hard to watch those originals now with a straight face. Like I can't watch Gabriel Byrne and Kevin Spacey anymore with a straight face in Usual Suspects without going, doofy, shithead.
yeah. And I kind of got lost in the shuffle. Doofy's back.
Yeah, I know.
He
Yeah,
was in the
Doofy's back. Yeah,
trailer.
I caught him with the knockoff Gail Weathers. Cherry. Oh, I'm trying
Sherry
to.
O'Terry, yeah.
Yeah, Cherry O'Terry. Yeah, she was the mayor in Inspector Gadget. Um, Matthew Broderick.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's like yeah, Doofy's back. Yeah, Doofy, shithead. If I'll tell you this for nothing, if Kurt Fuller is in there, I can die a happy man because I love Kurt Fuller as the sheriff. I mean, to have a fucking straight face when he sits down and he talks to Sydney. I know you've had a rough night, Sydney, so I won't keep you. I just want you to look at some photos. Tell me what you think. And he's like posing in a thong and stuff. If Kurt Fuller is in this movie somewhere, wow, man, they'll blow me out of the water. Kurt Fuller, man, all the way. Do you have any favorite moments? Oh, and before that though, I mean, I gotta say, man, Sean Wayne's being back in there because he fell off grid for a while, didn't he? Like Marlon stayed active in things and like crime shows and stuff like that, and Damon, everyone knows Damon already from things like Bulletproof and Major Pain. But Sean, I tell you, man, out of all of them, Sean made me laugh the most, and he's just been missing. Like I think, like what as far as Scary Movie goes, I think the last time we saw him was in the second one. I think. So when he rocked up dressed as like Brokeback Mountain and just went, why only half gay? I was cracking up laughing so much. I can't wait to see Sean Wayne's again.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how well it does, whether it's because it's a interesting thing. You can't help what you find funny. And
I
if
know
it's
it's just this reaction that just comes
yeah,
out. Yeah.
it's instinctive, yeah. So if it comes out and it's this huge box office hit, all bets are off because you can't sort of is it a product of its time, or have they sort of evolved and adapted? I'm really keen to see how
Well,
well it does.
if 50 Shades of Black is any indication, because I laughed my ass off all the way through that.
Yeah.
Like I reckon it like if you found it funny back in the day, and you found their sort of like a haunted house is another one that Marlon has done in the interim, and I could not stop laughing through that as well. And I think if it's managed to hit these beats through these decades, this one is definitely going to stick the landing. Like they've got credit in the bank with me.
Yeah.
The end of the first scary movie when she spins and goes, "What are you waiting for?" And then, oh yeah, which I always love when the principal jumps off and commits suicide during that moment. What are you waiting for? But I always love that ending with the reveal. Has anyone seen Doofy? And then the badass music kicks in, just light up the cigarette. Yes, I think I
Yeah.
prefer psychological thrillers now. It really is hard to watch those originals after seeing Scary Movie. Were there any flat out laugh out loud moments for you when you first saw Scary Movie?
Yeah, there were plenty, but I was kind of lucky because the example of The Exorcist a few minutes ago, it's the complete sort of opposite with Scary Movie because I'd seen The Usual Suspects, I'd seen Scream, and I'd seen I Know What You Did Last Summer and pretty
Yeah.
much all the rest of them. So I was able to sort of take it, in good fun. Uh, but yeah, the one at the end where like the limp and then he starts walking normally, it was just an amazing moment because you don't parody things that are shit. You only parody things that are just incredible. And The Usual Suspects, it was a pivotal sort of time for me when I saw it because I was about probably 12 or 13. So, but it was an important movie for me because I got it and I got it the first time. And there's a scene when Kobayashi showed up, Pete
Was that
Postlethwaite.
Pete Postlethwaite? Yeah.
Yeah, when he ambushes them in when they're playing pool, and he basically recaps the entire plot from that point on, and they talk about it in the commentary about how it's a very dense scene, and anyone who stays with it will just go on to love the movie, and I remember watching it as a boy, like just hanging with it, like hanging tough with it, and I'm not quite sure where it's going yet. We're following this motley crew of criminals, and then it's revealed that Hockney, Kevin Pollak's character, hijacked the truck at the start that they all got pulled in for. And I thought, all right, I'm in sync with this. I can get this because they're using lots of big words and they're talking really fast. And
They're
but
talking
it's
funny.
yeah, and I was just in a real sync with the picture all the way until the end. And when it's revealed, who the mastermind is, and yeah, it really left an imprint on me. It's just so tightly plotted and well written and well acted and just what it did for the people involved, much like the Terminator back in the day, from that film, Gabriel Byrne and Pete Postlethwaite and like they went on to become household names, and Bryan Singer went on to do X-Men, and he got that job from The Usual Suspects. And people always sort of think, well, how can that lead to that? One's, comic book superhero science fiction, one's a gripping, who done it sort of suspense thriller character piece. And
Yeah.
but those skills he applied, like he's proven time and time again, he can juggle a huge ensemble cast. Like he can juggle stories with, a dozen characters and it all makes sense. That's what got him the gig with X-Men, where you have like a dozen main characters and they all need, you know, the
See,
amount of
I
screen time.
See, it's interesting that you said that because one of the things that I'm finding recurring more and more when we hear the term ensemble cast is that the person that a lot of people are going to see, they'll say a criticism like they didn't get enough screen time or something like that. I think what it comes down to is not so much the screen time, but they didn't do anything interesting. And I'll give you an example of what you just said about going from Usual Suspects to X-Men. I was obsessed with Kitty Pryde because I thought being able to phase through walls, and I was like, how old was I when I first saw that X-Men movie? And she has that literally, like, I don't even think you see her face. She goes back for a pencil case and then fades through the door.
Yeah.
You know, and like, oh, it's right there, kitty, and then she goes. That's all the screen time she gets in that film. She's totally absent from the second one, I believe at least, or maybe she's the one who fades through the bed when it gets when the X Mansion gets raided. But those are that's the screen time they get, but it's very memorable because they did actually do something in that time. I think what gets lost in the shuffle with a lot of ensemble pieces these days is like they're just background extras. They don't do anything that sort of sparks, you know, a bit of intrigue or something like that.
Yeah, it's a real skill and a real art to it. And yeah, and Singer, sort of talked about that, back in the day. And the X-Men just has such a rich sort of history and franchise, and there's lots and lots of Easter eggs in all of his films.
Well, the other one that I think of that Singer did was the Colossus cameo because I loved Colossus from that episode with the Juggernaut, and he's not in it for very long. Like you have a few of the kids say, "Hey, Pete, how you going?" For Piotr, but when he steals up, and then it cuts to outside of the room, and then he throws those two SWAT guys through the wall, like
Yeah,
that's pretty much all the screen time that he gets. But it's such a memorable moment, you know. Like it's
yeah. And I
like
remember
that's
back in
so
the day.
you don't like they don't have to be there for a long time. They just need to be there for a good time. Just give them something to do, and it'll work fine. Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember back in the day the computer screen that Mystique accesses to find Magneto's location and all the names on that list. You had like Project Wide Awake and Bolivar Trask and Franklin Richards and Cannonball, and I remember yeah,
Oh
fans going
yeah, I
nuts
remember
about all
Franklin
that.
Richards was one of the
Yeah,
ones that psyched me up the most because you
yeah.
know that that one fucking wow because like yeah that was a really big one that one yeah.
Yeah, it was really cool. And yeah, we talked about how it's you can't fit like 30, 40 years of history into 2 hours, so you always sort of look to get little Easter eggs like that in
See,
there whenever you get the chance.
like there was a video that rocked up on my feed, right? Fucking this week going how every Batman got it right. And we've got Michael Keaton, we got Robert Pattinson, we've got Christian Bale, and we got Ben Affleck. I hovered over it, just glazing through the fucking, you know, like just going through the actual time frame. Not a single hide nor hair of Val Kilmer, none of that. Just fucking, just airbrush that out of history and all that kind of stuff. And I'm using that as the example because you mentioned the history of the characters. One thing that gets me the most is this, they got it right. Well, that implies there's a definitive take on the character that everyone should be using as a measuring bar. This is comics we're talking about. I don't think there is any definitive take on any of these characters. Like,
No,
just
there really
I
isn't.
just fucking go nuts with it. Like that's why it's so fun, and that's why I love the Joel Schumacher films because it had a good time. This whole that's what the character should be like that is so accurate to the comics, and I just sort of go. Accurate to the con. That's a good one. I'll have to remember that one. That's a very good one. Which comic? You know, like when
Yeah,
people ask you who is Clark Kent's boss, well, which Clark Kent are we talking about? Are we talking about Earth 1, Earth 2? Are we talking about Elseworlds? Like, then you
yeah,
fall into that rabbit hole. Definitive take. Oh, get the fuck out of here.
yeah. I'm guessing it was the Spider-Man you loved when you were 12. That's the definitive take. It's Um, it's like, WWE fans. They need to go back to the good old. Let me stop you right there. I'm guessing you're going to talk about when you were 12, right?
You know, they need to go back to if you smell like a spoiler alert, guys. It isn't 2000 anymore. It's not even, you know, it's not 1996 anymore. Um, yeah, like it's just this. I don't understand this. If it goes back to the way it was, see, the issue is though that a lot of these people don't understand is the formula hasn't actually changed. We have around it. Like the marketing style of a cartoon, a comic book, and a toy line with something like Transformers, that is still viable today. The problem is that there's just simply no market for it anymore. Everything is like there are no movie stars anymore. There's YouTube stardom now.
Yeah.
and stuff like that. Like kids watch their favorite YouTubers. Like, because I used to think, where is the new Tom Cruise? You know what I mean? Like, where is the new Pierce Brosnan? And the simple answer is, well, there isn't any, because there's no such thing as celebrity Hollywood stardom anymore. It's all internet personalities now, and stuff like that. So when that happens, that sort of Goliath marketing strategy that you could have back in the 80s and 90s and even the 2000s, it doesn't hold a lot of water anymore, does it?
Yeah, very much so. The because the viewership is so fractured now, it's like so many things. Well, for one thing, there's just such a wealth of content now. It's hard for anything to really stand out. And also everything now is so accessible. It's, growing up before 2000, like things were difficult to get. If you didn't record it when it was on television, it could be a while before you saw it again.
Like the
Whereas these
distribution of
days,
like DVDs. Like if you saw, like I remember like waiting for like the DVD of like Spider-Man 2 from when seeing it in a theater in 2004 was something like 18 months. It probably
mm,
wasn't that for real, but these days, like I've seen things that have just ended theatrical marketing and they're VOD all of a sudden. You can get them
yeah,
right now, like
it's
on demand. You can buy them on YouTube. I'm like, wasn't that just still at the cinema? Like its poster hasn't been taken down from the latest, timetable up there. Like it still has movie times on it, and you can buy it online now.
yeah, a movie that, back in the day, if a movie came out in, like 1986, you'd probably struggle to get a copy of it in 1996. Whereas today, if a movie came out in 2016, it may as well have come out yesterday. Like it would just be so easily found and easily located
Uh,
on multiple different platforms. So I think that's the key to it.
and see,
Uh,
like that's sort of the other uh, thing that I've been entertaining a little bit of, because I've seen um, like a lot of fans of things that they grew up with that really inspired them to become the adults that they are now. Um, Instantly start behaving like juveniles when anything from the era that they grew up with is under scrutiny. And I think when you talk about stuff like it's so accessible now, and like you had to wait, like I mean, owning a complete collection of Power Rangers, like as a adult, like in your early 20s when you were like 10 when it was airing, would have been such a feat. Like there's no streaming, like there's none of that sort of stuff yet. And the fact that now it's so readily available and you can relive all the greatest hits, like it doesn't even cost you a cent, mate. You just punch it up in the YouTube search and then you get the episode that you want to talk about. What gets lost in the interim is that sort of, this is where you were when you first saw it, and this is where you are after it originally aired. That line on the inclination, that's what gets lost in the source. And those 2 points, it's almost like the event horizon. Those 2 points have become the same to a fan. And I think that gets lost in the source. Like, this didn't happen yesterday. This happened 33 years ago.
yeah, yeah, it's just such a huge, passage of time. And if you're not going to engage, I read a good comment about, the Bond films earlier in the week about how basically up until, recently, the Bond films were, the same basic story over and over, pretty much without variation. And and that's okay. You either just sort of stick with it and accept that that's the formula and that's what we look forward to. But some fans, sort of grow out of them, and that's fine as well, and you move on to other things. But it's why some older Bond fans feel that the Bond films stopped working after some particular point or film in the past. It's not that the film stopped working, it's just that, older viewers are no longer able to connect emotionally with, films on that level anymore. So, and it's funny how, because we often sort of joke, about like fans ask questions they don't really want the answers to, and it's funny how Bond is struggling when they sort of got into the weeds about his past and, what drives him, and, he's in a sort of character and all that, whereas for decades we knew almost nothing about him. And it's box office gold, it's a license to print money. You know what I mean? Um, Whereas like the later Daniel Craig films sort of go into his past and they're sort of struggling a bit. Whereas audiences for decades have routinely and consistently have said with their dollars, we don't care about any of that.
Yeah, I think it comes to a bit of a head there. I just want you to hold that thought about Bond there. I need to go and shake the dew off the lily. I just got out of the gym, like I'm so fucking pumped up full of fluid. Just give me a second, mate.
All good.
Now it reminds me of yeah, it reminds me of Howard Payne in Speed, like his base of operations when he can see Pershing Square
Yeah.
from where he is. It has a row of pistols right next to his computer. I need that for when I start streaming. He comes out, he zips up his fly, he sits down, he opens up a beer. Is that you, Jack? That's what I need for my streaming setup. None of this fancy fucking computer stuff.
Interactive TV, Jack, the wave of the future.
Yeah. Ha ha ha. Huh? Awesome
Oh,
movie.
I love it.
Um, I just wanted to make a mention of because you mentioned James Bond there and how the Bond films aren't quite hitting the same and all that sort of stuff. I think something that happens, and this happened to me um, when it came to the new Superman movie. Now, I didn't think I was going to enjoy it. I absolutely loved it. The thing that kept me on the fence was because the guy playing Superman is now my age. Like it's a 30-year-old man. It's a guy I went to school with. No, I didn't go to school with David Cornsweet or anything like that, but it's a guy of the age I could have gone to school with. I think what happens with a lot of the old timers, in particular with James Bond, is well, of course, the relationship to a fictional character changes when you biologically become older than them. Like, does
Yeah.
that make sense? Like, because, well, it's not going to hit the same because, like, when you're a teen who's barely old enough to go and see a James Bond film at cinema, of course, it's the coolest shit in the world. But when you get in there and you start watching movies with like a perpetual, like, 35 to 40-year-old Bond, and you're 45 to 50, well, of course it ain't going to hit the same, because you have physically and biologically outgrown the fictitious nature of the character that you grew up with.
Yeah. But it's funny how, or it's interesting how they knew that back in the day and they future-proofed it, where you don't really know if it's his first mission or his last. It's just another, case or a job for him. But
Of course, yeah.
but I know with the Craig movies, like it sort of shows him starting out in his career and it's followed his whole
Amen.
career. Uh, so yeah, I always thought that was kind of interesting. Whereas because they always knew we're on a hiding to nothing if we go into this, even though fans have been clamoring for it for decades, and even the original Fleming books sort of just barely touch on his past and his origin and what drives him. He's like in a lot of ways, and it's kind of a sort of an uncomfortable truth. Bond is the least interesting thing about the whole Bond universe. It's all these sort of crazy over the top villains and side characters and all these spectacular action set pieces that really drive it.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing. He's
It's
like
the
this.
extravaganza of the character that's the identity, not so much the character
Yeah,
itself. Yeah, and I think if you compound that with an audience that's deeply rooted to the character who have now become biologically older than the fictitious nature of the character, then that's like, of course, because you've physically outgrown the character. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's
yeah,
like case in point, a good example in the realm of comics was Frank Miller. Like, what gave him the inspiration to write The Dark Knight Returns? Well, he turned 31. And why is that a big deal? Because Batman and Superman are forever written to be the age of 30. He's now older than something that he's, spent a great deal of time working on, and now that he's known for it, and like the guy's like, what, damn near 75 or something like that. The inspiration for that story came from the fact that he is now physically, biologically older than the fictitious nature of a character. And that one comic book is probably what he's going to be remembered for forever. It's that
yeah,
sort of, I wish people were more in tune with that. Like, is my relationship with this character still going to be the same when I'm older than them? And that's really what gets me with things like Power Rangers. Like, when I see all these takes again, like, oh well, we're going back to Angel Grove High. Well, I'm older than most of their teachers were in that show, for God's sake. Like,
yeah. It's
oh
a
well, we're
it's a
doing an older Tommy story or an older Jason story. Like, well, I think we have to swallow the pill that, yeah, I've sort of outgrown the nature of this sort of narrative, you know?
yeah. But I think a lot of it as well stems from we, like as fans, we desperately sort of want to we want validation and justification that we haven't wasted hours and hours of our lives. It's so I was sort of trawling through some of the reaction from the Masters of the Universe trailer. And like there's sometimes there's these random comments like, yeah, it looks good, but I'm not seeing any real human drama here. I'm thinking, dude,
It's Masters
save your
of the Universe.
yeah,
It's a.
save your $20, mate.
Uh,
It's stupidly ripped as shit guys just walking around in their jocks, swinging swords at each other.
and a skeleton, mind you.
Yeah,
Like, don't.
yeah.
Like,
It's like,
one of
dude, come on.
one of my things that gets me the most about these sort of like this is the reason why I don't call myself a fan of anything anymore. Metten made a mention of this a talk show. Well, it is tonight because this is where it's going, and there's no way I'm going to be able to do Resident Evil 2 with justice if we're having these deep sort of conversations going on. Um, because one of the things that gets me the most about about stuff like that is like sort of what you were saying, like, is it all wasted and all of this, and why people sort of bent, like, that's why I don't care about canon and all this sort of stuff. Like, I heard someone say, like, the Indominus, the Distortus Rex breakout at the start of Jurassic World Rebirth can't possibly line up with '08 because a website back in 2008 said this when they were working off the John Sayles script. Like, fuck out of here with all of that. Like, somewhere along the road, we've lost the ability to have fun. Like, you know how in It, like, why adults can't see Pennywise or any of the magic that he uses is because, like, when you grow up, you stop imagining. Like, that's sort of the
Yeah.
message of that. I think a similar thing is happening here. Like, when you grow up, you stop imagining, but being a fan, there's another caveat to that, and that is you stop imagining and you stop learning how to have fun. Like, no one's having fun anymore. Like, if you're going into Masters of the Universe to see how it makes heads and tails of the show from the 80s, give yourself an uppercut. Like, just bang,
Yeah,
sure you can. Just. Because, like, why would
yeah,
you expect that? Like,
yeah. It's well, it's I want the thing I love to grow up with me, and now that you know people, you know, people who were children in 1983 are now adults, middle-aged adults. They want something more sophisticated and complex, and you're not going to get that with stupidly buff guys, you know, dressed in their jocks, swinging swords and shooting lightning bolts at each other. It's they're incompatible, and there's a bit of a sort of immaturity here about this sort of lack of validation. If something has given you hours and hours of entertainment and fun and pleasure, if not hundreds of hours, it's not like fucking Back to the Future where that just suddenly vanishes. The thing that gave you hours and hours of entertainment, if if you're not really liking it anymore,
yeah.
that like those hours don't just vanish. It still gave you hours and hours and hours of
See,
entertainment.
because like that's the thing. Like I love Dragon Ball. You know what I mean? Like Goku is the man to me. He's right up there with Superman. Tommy's right up there as well. I tried to give Dragon Ball Super a shot, and it didn't quite land with me, so I stopped watching it. And like then you get the shit test. And that's, oh well, if you were a real fan, you'd say, no one's gonna tell me what these stories and what these characters meant to me, and it's just that, like, that's what they meant to me at the time. And the the, the reason why, especially with Super, why it wasn't quite working the same is because, and I'll have guys my age argue the toss with me saying, oh well, it's better than Dragon Ball GT, and I'm like, how many episodes of Dragon Ball Z were produced? Like over 200? I think there was like 70 something episodes of Dragon Ball, and I think GT had just about 70. That
Yeah.
follows Goku as a child, as a father, and as a grandfather. That is a lot of Goku for my lifetime. I didn't really want any more. And I think my body, like, because I think it's just human nature, because memories are designed to fade. And it's just the natural response to things that you do just sort of get over these sort of nostalgia trips all the time. Like, oh yeah, but it's picking up right where it left off. Well, if it's picking up right where it left off, I've got like 10 years on the characters in that show now.
Yeah.
I don't want to go back to Gohan being in high school. Like, Gohan should be a granddad now. um, like, yeah, it ain't for me. Probably time I hop off. And I think, are we really following these stories because we're excited about what they can tell, or are we just doing it out of habit? We gotta
Yeah,
ask that
that
question. Yeah.
yeah, that yeah, that happens. My word, it happens. I've been a victim of that as
Mm,
well. Am I buying something because I like it, or am I buying it because I always do? Yeah, my word, that happens. Yeah, rusted on fans just going through the motions
yeah.
do send the wrong message to, the creators and the companies. I did like that comment from Men, and this is a talk show now. Tell him that was funny.
Yeah, Matt, and he's good, mate. He
That
doesn't
was
get to.
funny.
Yeah, this is a talk show now. Well, it's like it remind because when he said that, that reminded me of that cut scene from Spider-Man on PS1 when Black Cat tells Spider-Man that Venom is ranting on the jumbo TV in Times Square. Venom's ugly face on that big screen. Now that's scary. When they go there and check it out, he's like, he's probably going to get his own talk show for this. What is it? Yeah, yes, same with that fairy episode in Charmed. Charmed, was that the Rose McGowan one? Rose
Yeah, I
McGowan
think it's
one?
had
I
a
think.
yeah, I think it was rebooted a couple of years ago, but there was the original sisters were Shannon Doherty, um is it Holly Marie Combs and Alyssa
It,
Milano.
yeah, that one totally missed me by. Like I saw adverts for it. What network did we have in Channel 10? I want to say had
Yeah.
it. I think.
Yeah, I actually watched it regularly for the first season or two. I
I'm learning
think,
new things about you.
yeah, I do remember that show. But I only watched it up to when Shannon Doherty left. And
She
then,
came in after season three.
yeah,
Zombie
her
Jason.
name's Paige. Yeah. I think she's a long lost sister or a cousin or something.
A prick
But
relation.
yeah, Shannon Doherty didn't last long on the show and she left it. And then it carried on with the other two and Rose McGowan. Yeah.
Thoughts on Yu-Gi-Oh? See, and this is one thing that I actually quite like about Yu-Gi-Oh. Like I dabbled in it a little bit. I say a little bit. I've got my deck vault right here from back in the day. One thing that I find truly interesting about Yu-Gi-Oh, like I never watched it outside of Duelist Kingdom and Battle City, but one thing that I loved about it was the fact it was the only thing on the market during Ruby and Sapphire of Pokemon. Yu-Gi-Oh was the only thing to really upsell it, and the reason for that, is not only because it was more bang for your buck, but trading cards were a lot more cheaper to produce and cheaper for kids to afford than a Game Boy and Game Boy Advance games. So I love the fact that Yu-Gi-Oh was the first real thing on scene. Like Digimon was just sort of, but Yu-Gi-Oh was the real contender that came along and gave Pokemon a run for its money for a little bit in the early 2000s, and that's plenty for me. Just oof, man. It's like I always say, a good kick up the ass, best thing that ever happened to anyone. um,
Yeah. Is
yeah, Channel
Yu-Gi-Oh still
10.
around? Do they
Uh,
still produce the
yeah,
card
they
game? Yeah.
they
Okay.
do. I think I've got them. Oh, I've got them right here. I've got my Egyptian god cards right here, and yeah, it's all three of them. Yeah, no, it's still producing. I was talking to a mate of mine the other day about it, who was really big on it from back in the day, um, and like we can barely understand the rules of it, and I was big on it like before he was born. And he's a bit more well versed in it with things like the YG Pro, I think it is, or whatever the online version of it is, where you can build your own deck and just play with people online and stuff like that. Like
Yeah.
we've got like pendulum summons and all sorts of weird stuff now, and maybe I'm just bitter old man crankiness about it. But back in my day, like what does Grandpa Simpson say in The Simpsons? I used to be with it, but then they changed what it was, and now what I'm with isn't it, and what's it is weird and scary to me. It'll happen to you.
Yeah, that's very
That's how
true.
I feel about Yu-Gi-Oh. Yes, and that's why I loved it too. Well, that's why we all love you. Yeah, yeah, Channel 10 and Buffy and Supernatural. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Buffy missed me by and Angel missed me by. Like I knew what these things were, but Supernatural was the one that really kicked. Like I'm wearing Famine's ring right now. Yeah, the Horseman. Like Famine was my favorite. Yeah, Supernatural was but that's typical Channel 10, isn't it? Like Channel 10 had the Shield, like and stuff like that. Like it had like a lot of good pull behind it. Like I know Channel 7 had like your Heroes, your Prison Break, and your Lost and all that sort of stuff, but Channel 10 did have some heavy hitters as well. They were just, I don't know, maybe the fucking time slot. Like, why would you knock the Shield to the graveyard slot? I guess the reason for that, maybe the content of the show. But if you knock it later, well, of course it's not going to have as many viewers. If they knew how big of a hit it was going to be, things might have been different.
Yeah, absolutely loved it. Yeah, back in the day. I was thinking about it as well. I read an article about this upcoming show called The Koreans, which is going to be a remake of The Americans, FX's thriller series.
Yeah,
Uh,
okay, yeah.
so The Americans, it's set in the 1980s, but it's these two Soviet KGB officers they posing as Americans. And it's utterly brilliant. And it reminds me, very different subject matter, very different story, but it reminds me of The Shield in the sense that I don't think there was a bad episode. Like some episodes were
Hmm.
better than others, and some episodes were absolutely legendary, outstanding. But
But there was never an episode that made you go, "Why am I even a viewer of this?" Like Supernatural did
yeah,
have a couple of those. Over 15 years, you expect to have a couple of wrong turns in there.
yeah. But The
you know?
Shield was just like just such a consistently high bar. I've heard. fans in some circles say the season two episode where they have the flashback to setting up the barn isn't well received, but I can take or leave that. But like I think like I don't think there was an episode of The Shield that was average. I think it was either good and we go from there. Like that's our floor, good.
Yeah, like
And
every
I'll throw the
episode, like every episode is a solid C minus, and it fluctuates upwards of that. Like it never stoops below that. Yeah, like
um
that's rare. Like I mean, like Heroes had some shocking ones, and Prison Break had a few that were a little bit of a hit and a miss. But to have something like that, like I reckon if Channel 10 knew the sort of um, the egg that they were sitting on. Who knows? Maybe they might have brought it up more. Who knows?
yeah. And I'd put the Americans in that category as well. Interestingly, they're both shows by FX. Yeah, that and very similar sort of trajectory. They ran for about 6 or so years and, really short seasons. Phenomenal acting. It's, you know, I cannot speak highly enough of the Americans. I watched it from beginning to end last year and I enjoyed the hell out of it. And in an age where so many people are disappointed with endings, ending of Game of Thrones, ending of, you know, Dexter and ending of Stranger Things, to have an epic, incredible ending, which The Shield was, and The Americans is certainly in that category.
And
You
not
know
to
it's a good ending when you want to go right back to the start and watch it again.
and not to mention one thing about that, because the ending of Lost, for example, was universally panned when that first aired, right? Now people have softened their stance on it after the fact. The Shield is one of the very few rare exceptions where it was well received after airing, just bang,
Yeah,
right after it was done, black screen, long sleep that never ends. Everyone just loved that. Like Vic just gets
yeah.
up and just leaves, and then bang, like that's it. Like it's rare for something to buck the trend like that. And these sorts of endings that you're all talking about, um, like underfulfilling and all that sort of jazz. Is it like do you think it might be victim to the ending that they imagined and not the ending that was told?
Yeah, very much so. And I think it's worse in some ways because if you talk about it online and all the time, and yeah, you do sort of have the tendency to build it up in your head, but it kind of butts up against reality. We get ourselves high on the anticipation of an ending,
Yeah.
but it bumps up against practical reality. Like I felt this feeling when I was reading the Dark Tower novels by Stephen King, and I still remember the night I finished it. It was the late evening, early hours of the morning, and there's 50 pages to go, there's 40 pages to go, and I'm thinking,
You're
oh,
at
it's
the
gonna,
crack of doom. Go for it.
yeah, it's like
Yeah.
it's epic and it's gonna be incredible and it's gonna change my life forever. And but the practical reality is I've got a handful of pages to go, and Stephen King himself says it's like you in these next final pages, it's not going to improve your love life. It's not going to put hair on your bald spot. It's not going to make you lose 20 pounds. It's an ending to a story. You just sort of have to take it on its own
And there was
merits.
something, because where I was going with that was, like I love Joel Schumacher, like I love, Lost Boys. I love Batman Forever. I love Batman and Robin. He also did another one with Jim Carrey called The Number 23, and I know a lot of people know that movie, and they all have their own takeaways from it. There's a good line from Jim Carrey towards the end of that movie when he's sitting in lockup and he's watching the clock and all that sort of stuff when it strikes 23. He has a good quote there, and it's really struck with me from the first time I saw it. It might not be a happy ending, or a sad ending, but it's the right ending. And I think that's something that's been
Yeah.
lost with this whole, like almost sort of like this Marvel esque sort of end game, definitive ending, like definitive take. Like, what's wrong with just, switching off? Like
Yeah.
that's and I really like the way Jim Carrey delivers that line. Like it's not a happy ending or a sad ending, but it's the right ending. Like
Yeah.
case in
And
point, the
it's
last line of Lord of the Rings is "Well, I'm home."
yeah.
Sam goes home. Like that's the final line, and then it ends. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of the best endings ever, and yeah, it's really interesting. It's yeah, just that sort of practical reality. Whereas, and even sort of watching the Americans, because it's rare for me to stick with a show that long, but and I'm always highly aware of the time and how much time has gone when I'm watching something, and yeah, it is creeping down to the final 15 minutes, and yeah, I'll never see these characters again, and the final 10 minutes, and then it gets to the final scene,
well,
and
I suppose it helps because you don't have the channel. Zombie J might remember this, but the Channel 7 announcer, if you miss the final episode of Lost, you just die. So, like, to really hype you up for the ending of whatever series that was on Channel 7 at the time.
yeah.
Uh, I suppose it helps when you're not just constantly bashed over the head by stuff like that. Like of course, like one of my favorite endings was always like the end of Evangelion. Like they wake up on the LCL beach, they have that moment. Oscar delivers her line, and then it just cuts to black because that movie has the credits halfway through it. So the final scene hits as hard as it does, and then you just get up and you leave the theater. And I see a lot of people like doing reactions to that who, spoiler alert, might not have been born in the early 90s or 80s or anything like that, and their first response is, "Oh my god, is there any more?" Like the
Yeah.
sweetheart, you just watched a movie called The End of Evangelion, and your initial takeaway is there any more?
Yeah.
Like fucking like I'm almost like Jim Carrey in The Mask. They're out, they're sold out. That means there's no more.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's another thing, just the glut of, consuming stuff without really absorbing it, like
Yeah.
junk food really. Like and Gurm, for all his flaws, and he does have a point. Like he says, as soon as this book comes out, the very next day, within the hour, someone will tweet me, when are we getting a Dream of Spring? It's he'll drop a 1,500 page doorstopper and people will read it in a day. They won't absorb
And
it. They
and
won't
and
appreciate it.
And do you know what the worst part about that is? Because it's been said a couple of times by his editors that there is enough material for a book. Make no mistake, I reckon whatever is dropped as the release of Winds of Winter, I don't think it'll happen, but let's say hypothetically it was. Make no mistake, the tail end of that book, that Bible that's dropped on your doorstep, there's definitely some A Dream of Spring in that, and they would still have the audacity to ask, when is the next
Yeah.
one coming out? Yeah.
Yeah.
um,
It's just that sort of
I like
just
this.
this mindless sort
Uh,
of,
I
I'll
like this
just
here. This.
I'll
Oh my fucking god, they would do that. I still haven't finished Lost after all this time. I would hype myself back into it, and the more I get through it, and I'm just like, what the fuck am I watching?
yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, it's yeah, I had a sort of friend who, I love it a bit. And you know, she always said, like, for you, I'll get around to Star Wars one day. Look, trust me, I promise. And I was thinking, look, if you're over the hump of your natural born life and you haven't seen Star Wars, you're probably better off without it.
See, because that's the thing that I like. Like I had a fallout with a couple of mates about like 11 or so years ago, like almost 12. And I had someone come along and say to me, "Oh, well, you never know. I mean, you can easily track them down on social media, give them a buzz." Well, I've gone 12 years without them. I could probably do another 12 without them.
Yeah.
And at that point,
I
that's almost quarter of a century, you know?
yeah. I look back on some things that I should have got around to, like, great stories or whatever,
Yeah, that mouse
and there's
trap.
only so much time in the day. Hey, I just sort of have to accept the fact that, life just sort of took me in another direction. I never got around to, Star Trek and all those sorts of
I
things,
didn't
but
either.
um, maybe one day, but yeah, you just have to sort of I don't know if I got over the hump of if you made it over halfway through your life and without something, you could probably go the next half without it as well. I don't think I'll sort of I'll watch
see,
Star Trek
see,
maybe one day and it will be perfectly fine, but I don't think there'll be an episode or a film where I think, God, where have you been all my life, you know?
now
Um,
I want you to hold that because there's something that's I've always thought about these sort of belated sequels that I never got around to that people keep saying, trust me, like what you were saying to your friend. I've got a
yeah.
question for you. Just hold that. I just got to go hit the John. Yeah. All right. So, you with me? No, on my luck, you're
Yep.
taking up.
No. Yeah, I gotcha.
Hang on a minute. I gotta. I'm taking my. Oof. It's almost like unplugging a SNES controller to untake all that cord. Um, yeah, like you were talking about your friend. When you're like, trust me, one day you're gonna get around to Star Wars. You're gonna enjoy it. You're gonna love it. And like if you're over the hump of your natural born life, you could probably go without it. I think a
Yeah.
similar thing when people try to sell me on a series, like Star Trek. Like you mentioned Star Trek. Star Trek for me was always one of the ones that sort of got away. Like I saw a lot of things like like I played Mass Effect, I saw Babylon 5, and apparently Babylon 5 started as a Star Trek spin-off and then became its own thing anyway. And like I seen these things when I was at the age where I was very receptible to them, like receptacle to them. So like the older you get, like I guess what happens here is like when you try to recruit um, people that are in your age bracket to something that hit you the hardest that it possibly could when you were the right age for it,
Yeah.
it really is a tough sell, isn't it? Having that, and I think a lot of fans don't have that moment of self reflection when it comes to recruiting. Like, there's nothing wrong with new viewers. I think there's something wrong with recruiting new viewers that are of your age, that weren't the age that you were when you first experienced these things. Does that make sense?
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
you summed it up perfectly there. It's
Yeah, like I have some great mates, mate, that recommend to me you gotta check out Star Trek. If you love Babylon 5, you're gonna love Star Trek. Well, I was about 12 when I watched Babylon 5, and I don't know if Star Trek is going to be able to hit me as hard as it could if I was 12 years old anymore. And I don't think these guys realize that. But, it's that sort of moment, like maybe it might have missed me by.
Yeah, no, I think so as well. Yeah, very much so. The
Yeah.
When it sort of imprints on you as a kid, it's really hard to sort of replicate that or to experience it for the first time when you know you're middle aged. So
But it's
it
almost
was,
like when people, like, for example, like when you're middle aged and you tell people to go and check something else out. Um, that you grew up with as a kid and might have influenced you or inspired you to like adopt a certain trait when you grew up, is the person that's in your age going to get that same takeaway when they go back to that content not as the age you were when you first saw it?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
that's
almost certainly not.
like if you didn't, like if I didn't go and see Star Wars Episode 1 when I was 7 and I saw it when I was 17, I'd be just like all these other guys saying, Jar Jar Binks, fuck this, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah,
Like it hits as well as it did because I was the target demographic when it happened. Same deal with
yeah,
Star Trek, same deal with, like your Charmed, your Hexes, and all that sort of stuff. I think what a lot of fans lose in the interim is that, like, if you talk to a like-minded individual who's of the same age as you that didn't see it back when it was airing or something, it really is a tough ask to get them to go back. Not only are they older than all of the fucking main cast at that point in time, they're also not young enough to be the real receptacle of whatever that series is trying to um, transfer. Like at that time,
yeah.
it's almost like this sort of jumble because, like, at that point, you're old enough to be apathetic to things like that.
Yeah, that's right.
um,
You can't
yeah,
sit a middle-aged woman down to talk about the importance of Star Wars. She's got fucking school lunches to make.
like if I sat a 35-year-old woman down and talked to her about how awesome five men came together to create Darth Vader, I'm not expecting her to be drooling over me. All right, by the end of the night, she's probably thinking, "Who is this fucking idiot wasting my time?" Is probably what she's thinking. I don't need a magic X-Men power to figure that out. Um, but it's the same deal. Like, yes, it might have been massive and influential to you, and yes, to some degree, it does rub off on other people. But I don't think the actual content that you're passionate about is what rubs off on people. I think it's the way you feel about it that does.
Yeah,
That's not the same thing. Like I could talk for hours to one of my friends about how much I love, fucking ninja robots, and she'll just be like nodding along or something like that. But then when I really get into it, no, 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 you don't understand. I really love Ninja Robots, and I talk about how it made me feel and all this sort of stuff. Well, then it's different because now her connection to that content is through me as a friend.
yeah,
Like it's not the content itself, and we're both fans of the same thing. No, 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 no. My friend is a fan of this thing, and this is how much they love it. That's different from both of us being a fan. Like that's another sort of concoction that gets lost, you
yeah,
know, as well. Yeah.
yeah, very much so. Yeah, I'm always drawn to people who are passionate about what they're into. So yeah, it really
Yeah.
does
People would
sort
say,
of
yeah,
have a galvanizing effect.
people would say the same thing. When I started on Stargate, they go, "Oh, you're not a real sci-fi fan if you didn't watch Star Trek." And yeah, I'm fucked. I'm guessing I tried. I can't. Well, same deal, Like, yeah, man, I've got a top mate who absolutely loves Star Trek. Well, the issue is as though it's totally missed me by. Like I love the iconography of the like the celestial technology and the Egyptian mythology. Like I love all of that, but just could have done with something like that. It's like these grown men, right, who sign up to an Andrew Tate course, and it's how to text back to women. If she texts you this, text this back. Probably
Yeah.
could have done with something like that when I was
Yeah, like
13, but as a
Tom
grown man,
Cruise.
it ain't gonna
Yeah,
work.
yeah, like that Tom Cruise character in Magnolia. Yeah.
Yeah,
I love how yeah, because he's playing this sort of Andrew Tate guru guy. And I
yeah,
love how every guy in the crowd is not as fit, healthy, and good looking as he is. It's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, you know, like it's funny. Like I was looking up today, like how do you make a YouTube short out of a YouTube live stream? And then someone came along with a video that said you just tap upload and then away you go. And the top comment is, "This is basically how do you learn to drive? Get a car and go." You really fucking narrowed it down. See, and the reason why I asked that question the way that I did is because in this world of all of this content is so readily accessible, you know, the correlation of when you first watched it back when you were the target market and receptacle to it to where you are now, that line in between over 30, sometimes 40 years. Fucking Star Wars is turning 50 next year. Over half a century of time. That inclination is lost when both of those points
Yeah,
are together, when you can see it at that same. So I think like this whole, oh no, like you got to sit down and watch Star Wars 77K or 74K or whatever it was called. No, I don't. Man,
yeah,
like no, I don't.
yeah. But and that's another sort of broader aspect of it as well. Maybe not so much Star Wars, but yeah, the things that fans are passionate about will fade away. It's
I heard a
eventually
good
it gets to a point where it's not all that popular anymore, and yeah, it does fade away. It's a very hard thing for some fans to accept, and they rage against the dying of the light.
Well, I don't think there's anything actually inherently wrong with something going away. You know, like it's not like it's cancelled or removed or anything like that. Like it's lived its natural life.
Yeah.
Um, you know, and like maybe that's it. Like I see a lot of people saying, "Oh, we need to bring Dino Riders back." Do we? Um, I don't think we do, guys. Like, we need to bring
Yeah.
ninja robots back. I don't think we do, guys. Oh, well, kids today don't know what they're missing. You know, our parents used to say that about our grandparents as well, right? You know, it's like when people our age talk shit about things like Five Nights at Freddy's and you know like K-pop Demon Hunters. It ain't got heart. Do you mean it wasn't the fucking craze that snagged you as Power Rangers and Pokemon and Digimon did back in the 90s? It's the same deal. Just kids today have discovered something new to fill that void. They don't need us to enjoy their pop culture. And I don't see that as a bad thing. Like, I see that as a very good thing. Because if we didn't have that sort of natural passing of the torch, things like Star Wars don't come to fruition to begin with, you know?
Yeah.
Like for example, like if Flash Gordon doesn't die out and meet the end of its run, Star Wars doesn't happen. You
Yeah.
know, like that, like George Lucas wanted to recreate sort of things that, you know, and draw inspiration from an era that he grew up with that is now long bygone. Well, there's no harm in doing that, but trying to forcefully recreate the production value of the era that you were born in, that's always going to be problematic. I think that's proven now.
Yeah, beyond a shadow of a doubt. Yeah. Everything that's sort of tried that um have
Okay,
if it's
like
not
you've
an outright flop, it's had middling success like Alien tries to do that. It bends over backwards to recreate that 70s aesthetic, and the results aren't stellar. Like they haven't produced an out and out hit.
yeah.
Romulus did all right. The television show Alien Earth did all right, but they weren't it didn't leave fans sort of clamoring at the bit to go back to that world in a hurry.
Uh, yeah, Zombie J just made a good point here, and sometimes our kids end up liking what we grow up with, but we don't force it on them. Yes, that's true, and we also get the flip side of some parents do try to get their kids onto the shows that they liked when they were kids, and it doesn't work out. Like the guy that you were telling me about, who was lamenting that his kid didn't like TMNT from the fucking 1980s. Well, of course he didn't. He wants to watch K-pop Demon Hunters because that's what all the kids on the playground are watching at the time. But there's
Yeah.
also another caveat to that I wanted to draw a mention to because I showed my nephew a few episodes of Transformers Beast Wars, but I really, like, and he was all keen on going through it, but I really think he was just going through it for my sake, not so much because he was actually interested in it. And I'm like, look, man, it's all cool. We can change gears. Like, why don't we go and play some Jurassic Park arcade? We'll do that instead. Let's go and kill some dinosaurs. Um, and the simple fact is, like, it won't hit the same because things have superseded it in a lot of ways. And it's only a good thing, because when you hear about things that, this inspired me when I was a kid, oh, well, that's great. Like, but that inspiration does flow on and have an effect outside of that sheer content on its own. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Beast Wars, for example. Like, okay, rightio, like you love Beast Wars, yeah, all right, but the inspiration from that might have encouraged other people who've seen it, might not be Transformers fans, but have seen it, to become like 3D animators, to work at mainframe and stuff like that. Like, there are spillovers from that just gets totally overlooked. Nah, you need to have a Power Ranger tattoo, and you need to be wearing a Maximal tattoo and an Autobot and a Decepticon, and to really prove your loyalty to like a religion almost. But we seem to lose all of the inspiration that it does create that isn't a YouTube channel and stuff like that.
Yeah, and another thing that's frustrating is just sort of learning the wrong lessons from it. You know, what really made Beast Wars work was, the limitations. Because CGI was in its infancy, it was a sort of pioneering show. That and the TV show Reboot were the only sort of fully CGI ones back in those days. Because it was so expensive, it forced them to have a smaller cast of characters. A smaller cast of characters meant they had more time to develop them. And that's why all the Beast Wars characters are so beloved, because they all have distinct personalities. They're not sort of throwaway, sort of spotlight character episodes the way the G1 cartoon did. But that's not the lessons we took away from it. The lesson should have been a smaller cast of characters means you can develop them more and really
Yeah.
sort of give some heft and sort of weight to the stories. It's sort of like Watchmen. That's the surface level fluff is what we took away from it, whereas like the way the story was put together, the intricate plotting and the way it all fit together, and you read the first couple of issues of Watchmen and think, where's this going? And gradually it starts to coalesce. It's a masterclass of sort of editing and pacing, but the surface level sort of fluff, not to trivialize it, like the rape and the violence and
Oof.
the sort of darkness of it, that's what people took from it. Whereas,
Like, it
no,
reminds me.
the bones that are holding it together is what people should have been inspired by, not that, superheroes can be jerks.
Yeah, like I see Metin just going off. Nobody summons Megatron. Yeah, I'm working on my Frank Welker Megatron voice. Yeah, I'm getting pretty good. People tell me. Um, yeah, you're right. And just on that, when you mentioned the Watchmen, I remember Fact Fiend did a good video about that. Like, people, heroes you've missed the point of by idolizing them, and of course you get things like your Tyler Durden, your Carmen, and then they mentioned Rorschach from The Watchmen, and Alan Moore was doing a comic signing, and people were coming up to him going, "Oh man, I absolutely love Rorschach, man. He's a total inspiration to me." And Alan Moore's just totally fucking lost at sea. He's like, "Why are you talking about him with such reverence? He's a piece of shit human being. Why are you talking about him like he's Superman?" Well, you've seen the movie and you haven't read my actual book. Like, that's the reason why you're talking about Rorschach like that.
Yeah.
um, like, so that was always a big one. Yeah, like the ones that you've missed the point of. It's like when people talk about, oh, Vegeta needs to go back to being a badass. Like, how cool would Vegeta be if he fought Goku again and it was like vicious and violent and bloody? They're rivals, sweetheart. They're not enemies. All right, like, why are you talking like that? Do you think there'll ever be a time where, I know I've asked you this before, where it will dawn on people just how much time has passed? I've said it a few times tonight. Like when you first seen something to where you see it now, and the internet has bridged the gap, and but that line in the middle is lost. I remember you said once, when The Simpsons is finally cancelled, will be the real wake up call when people start to take that into consideration. Do you still think that?
Well, it's a nice observation. It's because it's probably the only one sort of for certainly my generation
Yeah,
and subsequent ones. It's yeah, I sort of can't imagine a world where The Simpsons wasn't a part of it, even though I was born slightly earlier before it premiered. Like The Simpsons has pretty much been um there or thereabouts. And like it's a funny thing, like I have not watched it regularly for the better part of 30 years. Like I even
yeah,
before
yeah.
the year 2000, I did not watch The Simpsons. I don't think I've watched The Simpsons regularly since I was like 9 or 10, and those days are long gone now. And just sort of hearing about the fact that there another big screen film is coming, a sequel, and the fact that the show's been renewed for another
Yeah,
four or
and the
five
sequel
years.
is the sequel is 20 years removed, I think.
Yeah,
2007, I think, was
yeah,
the Simpsons
it's
movie.
yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's unbelievable. It's extraordinary that um yeah, the fact that it'll be 20 years since the first movie and the show keeps going on. It's look, it will come to an end one day and the fact that so many of the cast are now elderly and yeah, all those things were sort of coalescing in my mind and yeah, I just sort of thought because it will come to an end eventually.
Yeah.
But yeah, but it's not this day, but
Yeah, well, I
it's
think because I think that will be the one um that will get because of like you come home, like you turn on channel 10 like 6 o'clock, Simpsons is always on. Sometimes they'll have like a double feature, and not to mention, Zombie J probably knows this, the Fox channel on Ostar used to have like 24/7 marathons, like over the breaks, like the school holidays, just nothing but Simpsons for 24/7. So the fact that there will come a day where there is no new content being made, and it has closed its doors, will be the one that sort of gets people to realize, spoiler alert, these cartoons will exist long after we're all dead and buried. And
yeah,
like it will sort of get fans to realize, oh well, I grew up with this, yeah, but where does this thing go after we're gone, you know
yeah.
so the
Well,
fact that it
someone's watching it. The fact that no one really watches it, but it must be getting numbers somewhere. It's the fact that it keeps getting renewed for not just 1 year, but for several years. It's a weird one, isn't it? When is the last time anyone mentioned The Simpsons to you? Like
Yeah,
you have
I
to go
know.
back years.
Like people don't even make the joke like The Simpsons did it, or
Yeah,
anything like that. But like we're just using that as the example. Like when is it gonna
yeah,
be? Because like when you look at something like Optimus Prime, like or Megatron, like it's like Megatron, like this is the G1 Megatron, and it was in a movie like what, like 2 years ago, like 18 months ago, or something like that, and no one went and saw it. But it was due to lack of marketing. Could it be, guys, that only 45-year-old men turned up to see it and kids just don't care about Transformers anymore?
yeah,
I think,
yeah. Or is the reason like with The Simpsons, because yeah, like we said at the start, like it's because it's always been there. Like no one talks about
yeah.
grass or rain or wind or sky. It's
And
always been there.
like I think the reason for that is because The Simpsons is almost like the news. Like the news is
Yeah,
always on, right? Yeah, but the anchors change. Like like
yeah,
like you see anchors change from when you were a kid, growing old and grey and bald and wrinkles and stuff like that, and then they swap out. But the news is still on, right? I'm like Devon Sawa. Don't you watch the news? I hate that fucking show. Um, but like when it comes to The Simpsons, where they're evergreen and they're animated character avatars, like I think, well, like, what was it? Julie Kavner, the voice of Marge, like she's like 85, I think,
Yeah,
or something
that's
like that.
pretty,
Like she's
yeah,
or
pretty
just turned
astonishing.
80 or something like that. Like so, the it is coming soon, and that might be the real sobering reminder of, yeah, you know what, guys, like it does have to come to an end. Like I think Peter Cullen, like Optimus Prime, like turned like 85, like or something like that. Oh no, we still need to dust him out to do the voice again, guys. It isn't 1986 anymore.
Mm.
All right, like
Yeah, although The Simpsons have navigated the loss of cast members, albeit not core ones. Phil Hartman, like he died violently, and
yeah,
you
his
know, back in the
wife
90s.
killed him, I
Yeah.
think. Yeah,
But
unfortunately.
albeit he wasn't a main character. But so they have sort of navigated. Who else has died from that show?
I can't remember the woman. Her name escapes me, but Martin Prince and Edna Krabappel.
Yeah,
She
okay, yeah.
passed away. So those two characters, like apparently they don't even have episodes or clips at the school anymore. Like, all right then. I guess if those are the rules that we're playing by, then well, that's going to be it then, isn't it?
Yeah, I didn't know
Like
that. That's
what
pretty weird that they do that. Yeah.
what happens if Dan Castellaneta like falls out of the shower, and breaks his neck? And do we write Homer Simpson out of the show and keep the other four members of the family going? Like, I don't know. If we start getting into territory like that, I'd like to think they'll retire it before then. Um, but who knows? Like that might just be that's the reason why I think maybe if they close doors and say, rightio, this is it, this is the finale. And I reckon they should treat the last one just as any other episode. Like, don't have the characters actually mention it, because we talked about finales tonight. Just have them end like any other episode, and just have that shh, Grace Films, whatever, and just have it end like any other episode. Like,
Yeah.
don't draw attention to it, and then just let that be that. Because that's like what, like 38 something. What did Metten say? Like, yeah, nowadays shows will have like 11 or 3 seasons. Simpsons are like from 88, 89. Like
Yeah, 1999, I think. Yeah.
that's damn near a life sentence, man. Like 25 to life. If you exceed 25 seasons, I remember sitting back thinking if you exceeded 10 seasons, you were something else. Like Power Rangers did that, but that had the DNA of being able to reinvent itself. And then you had things like Smallville. Like Smallville really set the bar, and then Supernatural came along and raised it to 15, which I believe still holds the record for a network show. To have something like The Simpsons that's gone through all these eras and the rise and of stuff of like digital eras, and we're now going into AI, where people will soon be able to AI their entire Simpsons episodes, and fan fictions will be running rampant. To have them actually just bow out and just call it a day and do their own thing would really send that message of, while the technology around us is going to be eternal forever, we still get old. Yeah,
Yeah.
like when you go back and watch Terminator for like the 511th time, spoiler alert, we are now older than Michael Biehn was when he shot that movie. Like that's what's getting lost in translation. Like I read somewhere that Sam Neill was 48 in the original Jurassic Park. Almost all of my siblings are older than him in that. Like I'm almost older than him in that movie.
Yeah. Christ.
Yeah, like the span of time is just being lost, man. I think that's the real sort of sobering reminder of it all. And like sometimes it doesn't have to really end. What's the old saying? It's the journey, not the destination.
Yeah, I have heard that bandied about in a couple of different situations. Yeah, it's and there is some truth to that. But also I think um the good endings that stand the test of time, like The Shield and like The Americans, is when you watch those finales, there's a sense of inevitability about them. And that's what makes Terminator 1 such a good movie. It it just feels logical, like there's nothing else they could have done. Like every decision and every scene sort of builds and builds and connects the tissue of the preceding one. And And I feel that with the Shield, and no one makes it out unscathed. And you look back and you think there was just that sort of like all roads were leading there, and I get that with the Americans as well, and like all the great endings. Yeah, they just had that, for good or bad, that sense of inevitability that, that Terry Crowley's murder was always going to come back in a big way, and The Wire is really good like that as well. The Wire is also held up as a really great ending for a show. So I think that's sort of the key ingredient in a lot of endings that are well received and a lot of the ones that aren't.
Like it's amazing that we have to keep having this conversation of, sometimes things just have to end. You know, and no, this isn't one of those sort of breakdown videos where Agent Smith was right the entire time and Agent Smith is the chosen one, but the everything that has a beginning has an end. Like you get to the natural ending point where, like because I'll use Dragon Ball as the example. Like a lot of people were screaming like when Super was really kicking off and the Tournament of Power was happening back in the day, everyone was like, I want an ending where Goku doesn't just fly off into the clouds and it ends just like every other Dragon Ball series. That's how Z ended. That's how Dragon Ball GT ended. And I'm sitting there thinking, why would you expect this one to be different? Like that is the definitive ending. Until we meet again, guys. And he
Yeah.
flies away. Like that's it, man. Like that's
Yeah.
like sometimes it's just one of those like accepting. It's almost like a breakup in a way with a lot of fans. Well, I should say your term, like rusted on fans. It's almost like a breakup. It's like Woody Harrelson in Zombieland. Look, you ever read that book? She's just not that into you. All right, you can't make yourself too available.
Oh God, I love it. Anyway, champ, I might wrap it up.
Is it starting to get too cold for you, Co? Yeah, well, I'm about to crash out as well. What time is it? It's yeah, fucking yeah. Well, you know what? We exceeded 12 o'clock, all right, because we're not Cinderella. We're Kiba Ranger and we're Miracle Man. Yeah, you boys need to turn this into a podcast. Well, you know what? We might have to do a just chatting session every Friday night because it's almost like the Adult Swim hours, isn't it? Like on two. Was that Toonami? I think did that. I can't remember. Maybe Zombie J can remember, but yeah, nah, awesome chatting, and all that sort of stuff. And I'll wrap up the stream now. And yeah, we might have to make this a regular thing. So everyone else, stay out of trouble and don't do anything I wouldn't do, and don't do anything that I would do. There's a little grey area in there, and that's where you operate. Benton, you take it easy, mate.